Hey, this is David McLaughlin. Thank you for listening to the Modern Leader podcast today. I'd like to ask you a favor, but don't worry, it's free. If you can do us the favor of wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it's YouTube or Apple or Spotify or Amazon or wherever else, if you can go out there and rate it for us, just give us a nice high rating. And if you even better, leave a comment telling what you love about the show, that really helps us and it doesn't cost you a dime. Okay, let's get to the program. I met Dr. Robin Stern a couple years ago, and just very briefly, and I learned that she was an expert on gaslighting. What I learned later is she's the expert on gaslighting. Wrote this classic book, Gaslight Effect: How to Spot and Survive the Hidden Manipulation Others Use to Control Your Life. Here's what I didn't know until our interview today. She is so cool. Just very down to earth, super smart. What an amazing person. I am super excited for you to listen to this interview today with the modern leader, Dr. Robin Stern. Dr. Robin Stern is the co-founder and senior advisor to the director at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. She is a licensed psychoanalyst with 30 years of experience treating individuals, couples, and families. Robin is the co-developer of Ruler, which is an acronym for the 5 key emotion skills of recognizing, understanding, labeling, expressing, and regulating emotions. It's an evidence-based approach to social and emotional learning that has been adopted by over 4,500 schools across the United States and 27 other countries. And as a side note, in the middle of your bio, I teach Ruler all the time when I speak on emotional intelligence. She is the
Thank
author.
you. And it's good to know. Very smart
Yeah.
of you.
She is the author of this great classic book, The Gaslight Effect, also the Gaslight Effect Recovery Guide, and the co-author of Project Rebirth: Survival and the Strength of the Human Spirit from 9/11 Survivors. She's the co-author of Emotional Intelligence for School Leaders and is host of the Gaslight Effect podcast, which is a great podcast. If somebody wants to dig in deeper and deeper and deeper after today, I highly recommend her podcast. Dr. Stern, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. And please call me Robin, and I will call you David. We're off to a
I'll,
good start.
I'll try to call you Robin. I have this thing. I think it's because I'm working on my PhD. I'm about a year away from finishing, and when I uh, achieve that, I will demand everybody calls me doctor. And so I try to give the same respect to others. It's really not true, but I do
Well,
try to
full
call people.
disclosure, when I first got my doctorate, I did the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people said to me, immediately start making reservations and say, this is Dr. Robin Stern.
Right, right, right. Yeah. You and I met very briefly in Washington, D.C. a couple years ago at a workshop that your uh, co-founder at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence was giving, Dr. Mark Brackett, and he's amazing. We've had him on the show, and we talk about Ruler and go into all that. So if anybody wants to check that out, go back and listen to that episode with Dr. Brackett. But you and I met just briefly, but I was so fascinated with this topic of gaslight, and I've since learned of gaslighting. I've since learned that your book is really like the go-to classic book on gaslighting. So I really wanted to have you on the show to talk about this. Before we dig into that, I always like to just ask, tell us a little bit about you. Like, where did you grow up? How did you get doing what you're doing now? Just give us a little background on Dr. Stern.
Well, so that's a lovely question, and not one that I am asked very often. Thank you. I grew up in Garden City on Long Island outside of New York City, and it was a perfectly manicured, beautiful suburb. And I grew up thinking that the world was calm and peaceful. And on the inside, however, of all these beautifully manicured houses, I noticed as I was growing up that there was a lot of drama that I found out sometime as I was growing up that one of the neighbors was having an affair with another neighbor, and people were fighting in that house, and people were going to be getting divorced in that house as soon as the child graduated high school, and things like that. And it really made me stop and think about relationships a lot. And so I
And
think,
how old were you when you like started thinking like this?
well, probably I was in elementary school while I was sitting
Okay.
on my front step, and people used to wait for me to be done with lunch after we would sit together on our front step to continue the conversation from
Yeah.
that uh, front step conversation that we
Right.
started.
Yeah.
Sorry for repeating myself, but it was very defining, I think, that I really enjoyed that time with friends where we just used to hang out in an informal way and talk about relationships most of the time, not only school relationships, but our relationships with our family, and what we heard inside of the perfectly manicured, perfectly appointed houses we all lived in.
Right.
And I think certainly as I grew up, I then began to think, well, what do I do with this interest in relationships and psychology? When I started college, I majored in pre-law because at that point I thought, well, I will counsel people who want to be divorced, right? And
Right. Right.
help make it a smoother process. And just remembering something that I do want to share because it's been important to me. One of my first role models growing up, and this is before I went to college, obviously, it was when I was a little girl, was the childhood movie star Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
And that may sound strange, but I used to watch her movies every Saturday. And while my mom was doing something else, and that was my activity for Saturday morning. And I was fascinated. Looking back, I realized I had been fascinated by the fact that kindness can cure everything, can fix everything, can help people who were warring countries come together and talk.
Hmm.
So I think of her as my first role model, and I thought, I like that. I want
Yeah.
I want to do that. I want to help people in the world make a better place in the world. And also, I grew up in a Jewish home, and there is a Jewish concept called tikkun olam. Do you know it?
Mm-mm.
It means to heal
No.
the world. It means
Oh, so
heal.
beautiful.
It means heal the world, heal thyself, and heal the world. And it is this concept that is actually very relevant in today's world, and um, very meaningful, I think, that the world is broken. There are many things that are
Yeah.
broken in the world, and that it's the responsibility of each person who is living in this world to do their part in healing the world and making the world a better place, and in helping people make their dreams come true. And so that has fueled my passion and purpose in working in with Mark and the world of emotions, and making a difference for people all over the world, and in writing and in sitting one-on-one with people and listening to their struggles and helping them move through to a better time where they can have their integrity and their well-being and pursue what they want to pursue in their life. So the more practical side was that I majored in law, pre-law, majored in psychology, and in whatever they were calling pre-law at NYU at that time. And immediately realized when I started doing the practicums for psychology that, wait a minute, I don't want to be writing things about this. I want to actually be doing this. I want to
Yeah.
be sitting with people. I want to be listening to what hurt them. I want to be helping them along the road of healing. I want to be helping people to talk to each other with kindness and with caring. And so those were my early beginnings, and I went to graduate school after that, and Then I went on to do a practicum, and then I went to more graduate school, got a PhD. And it's an interesting story how I met Mark Brackett, which is that I actually my PhD was in social intelligence. And
Uh-huh.
I went from working in social intelligence at NYU to joining a colleague, Jonathan Cohen, who was working in emotional intelligence at Columbia University. And he was the director and I was the co-director of an early organization in social and emotional learning in New York City. And then I went from there to continuing to do my private practice, which I was training for after my PhD. Um, and I was working, it's a very long-winded introduction, so I'll try to make it short.
That's all right.
So I then went from there to being a consultant at a new elementary school that was a social experiment of sorts at Columbia University called The School at Columbia that
Mm.
was built for faculty of children and neighborhood children to go to school together. And during that time, I uh, I was invited to be a co-founder of the Summer Principals Academy at Teachers College Columbia, which prepared leaders for urban seats in principalship and leadership. And I was invited then to the Garrison Institute, upstate New York, on beautiful Hudson River. And at that leadership conference, Mark was there, and he was sitting across the room from me, and everyone was presenting about their program, and I was there because I was one of the people who might be interested in bringing their programs in. And people were posturing about their program, and then somebody said to Mark, well, Dr. Brackett, would you like to present your program? And Mark said something like, yeah, I will, but first I have to take care of a few things. And so he was the only one who was like completely casual in that moment. And I thought, I want to get to know that guy.
Right.
And that was where my career completely shifted. I brought him into our work at Teachers College, and now we're proud to say that many of our students from the Leadership Academy at Teachers College are now running their own schools around the world and around the country. And he brought me into his work at Yale. And I'll stop there because then my work at Yale has been my work since, and I'm so blessed and privileged to work alongside of him and our amazing team bringing emotional intelligence to all these schools. And thank you, Mark, and
Yeah, he's
thank
he's
you,
such a
David.
neat he's such a neat guy. Uh I feel like I could just talk about just this intro, like we could talk for an hour just about this because there's so many things in there that I would love to like talk to you deeper about. But um we want to talk about gaslighting. So your book is The Gaslight Effect: How to Spot and Survive the Hidden Manipulation Others Use to Control Your Life. Tell us what gaslighting is, because I think people have all kinds of ideas, or maybe they've heard the word. And I hear sometimes people just using the term just wildly, like everything's gaslighting. So tell us
Anything.
what gaslighting is.
So gaslighting is essentially when somebody tries to drive you crazy or insist on their reality and that it should be your reality, and you allow that to happen. And I say that knowing that a lot of people say, I didn't allow that to happen, but somehow, unconsciously, inadvertently, you step into what I call the gaslight tango, right?
Right.
And and you are then the target of that insidious psychological manipulation that seeks to sow seeds of doubt in your stability, your reality. The gaslighter, over time, in a power dynamic, repeated constantly, tells you that there's something wrong with you, that you don't know how to remember things, that you don't know how to do things, that people don't love you, that you are not lovable, that you should be lucky to have this relationship, have this job, that you should stop complaining. What's wrong with you that you're complaining? When you might actually have something to complain about. Never gets talked about because the twist in gaslighting, which is one of the core features, the core feature of it that distinguishes it from other kinds of bullying, which it is a kind of bullying, is that somebody is twisting your reality. Somebody is twisting the conversation to blame you rather than answer the question, deflecting the conversation so that you're leaving the conversation thinking, what just happened there? Or, wait a minute, I was there because like one of the examples from one of my books, I went in to talk about why I didn't get that promotion.
Hmm.
And we talked for an hour and I still don't understand. Right? But
Right.
he told me not to worry. Okay, so maybe I'm an over worrier. Or
Yeah.
like a friend of mine who went in, and this is a true story. I don't think it could even happen these days, but she went in and she spoke to her boss and said, I'm like really feeling like I'm being left out of all the important meetings. Like I used to be invited to
Right.
the Monday meeting, the Thursday meeting, and I'm going on sales calls. What happened? And her boss leaned forward on the desk and said, Sweetie, this probably couldn't happen these days, but
Yeah.
sweetie,
No, I'm sure it would.
um, you know, you're going through menopause, aren't you?
Oh my
And
goodness.
maybe that's the problem here. Like you're a little stressed out. Like, why don't you take a few weeks off? And my friend, who was at that time stressed out, not necessarily at menopause age
Right.
yet, but was stressed out, just walked away thinking, you know what? Maybe that's the problem. That I'm overthinking this. You know how much we value you. You're just stressed out.
Yeah. Right.
And so you leave the interaction feeling like you're going over and over that conversation. But wait a minute. But I asked this, but did he give me any information? Is he right? Am I stressed out? Or am I right? Am I actually being left out?
Yeah. And you leave questioning yourself when in the beginning you were like, hey, we need to address this. And then you walk out of the situation like, maybe I'm the problem, right?
All the time.
Yeah.
The time in a gaslighting relationship, and that's actually what was fascinating to me because I had watched the movie Gaslight, which if
Right.
listeners have not or your viewers have not watched this, our audience should all watch the movie Gaslight because it is fascinating to watch this very seemingly confident, present woman, present in the moment woman who has a voice, speaks her mind, suddenly in this relationship with this man she's in love with is insecure, questioning herself, and ultimately becomes the crazy person he's trying to drive her to be, right?
Right.
I was fascinated because in my practice, I saw a lot of women, and I would notice over time that many women, and I was seeing this in my personal life as well, that these confident, strong, vocal women were suddenly like, I don't know, maybe I am wearing like the wrong clothes, or maybe I am like he said I used to be so nice. Maybe I'm not nice anymore, or classic story from that period of time was a client of mine was walking down the street with her boyfriend when they went out to dinner, and he would say to her, you're don't need to be flirting with everybody you're seeing. And she didn't think she was flirting and she was just very
Right.
friendly. And he said, I want you to make it better. I want you to prove that you love me. I want you to look at the sidewalk when we walk down the
Oh my
street.
God.
And that didn't bring her into my office yet. But she started looking down at the sidewalk as they walked down the street. And then they stopped fighting because, of course, she wasn't engaging with people, she wasn't flirting, etc. And then he upped the ante and he said, and when we sit in the restaurant, I want you to make sure that you look at the wall. You take the seat where you face the wall because I'm noticing a lot that people say hello to you, you're known in this neighborhood and you're flirting with them. And you may not be aware of it, honey, but you're flirting with them. And at that point, she was she what she was doing it and she was uncomfortable. And so she came to
Yeah.
my office and she said, Dr. Stern, I don't know what's wrong with me because, like, I can see when I actually act in a different way. When I face the sidewalk, when I face the wall, we're not fighting. But there's something about it that just doesn't feel right to me. What do you think?
Yeah. That's so I've got so many questions I want to ask you, but this one just popped in my mind as you were describing that. I think in your definition of gaslighting, you said, I can't remember how it was worded, but like basically it's intentional. The gaslighter knows what they're doing. Is that accurate that they know what they're doing? Or are there some people who are just, I don't know, something in them, they're manipulative or their own, obviously it's driven from their own insecurity. Do they know they're doing it? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, David, what I love about this question is that um, gaslighters have a terrible reputation because many people think that all gaslighters are like the protagonist in that movie,
Sure.
this diabolical, evil guy manipulating his woman for, in that case, riches. But in many cases, people just say they're evil, they're bad people. It's
Right.
not the case.
Yeah.
First of all, gaslighting is not a personality disorder. Gaslighting is a behavior. It's a dynamic that you get that gets set up between two people. And gaslighting is something that's socially learned. So either you saw it in your family,
Mm. Right.
you witnessed it or you experienced it, or sometimes you just happen into it. You just
Hmm.
happen into it. So let's say um, we're dating, and I say to you, you know what, David, we've been having such a great time, but like I'm really struggling because I've been calling you for the last 4 nights, and like we've been dating for a couple of months now, and I can't reach you.
Right.
So you're in the hot seat. What are you going to say to me? You could say, I'm really sorry. Um, I was out with friends and I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want where I wasn't ready to introduce you and I knew you'd be
Yeah.
upset. Or I don't want to talk about it, or something else. Instead, the gaslighter will sometimes go in the direction of, what's wrong with you? Why are you so paranoid? Look at
Right.
us. We're so in love. Like we have this great connection. Or we're so in like, we have this great connection. Or we're so in
Yeah.
love. And so you then walk away and you're thinking, maybe he's right. Like maybe I am paranoid. Look at how he's treating me right now.
Right. Right.
And so
Yeah.
um, so the gaslighter then learns in that interaction that worked. Now, I'm not saying he
Right.
sits back and says that worked, but now all of a sudden that's a mechanism that he can try again. That's a dynamic that he can set up again when he's in the hot seat. Just gaslight, just flip the conversation.
It,
Um,
it becomes like a tool in their toolbox to
exactly.
get the heat
Oh,
off of them. And they may
ex-
not know the term gaslighting, they may not know any of that, but what they know is this thing I did to deflect worked, and I need to keep doing that.
yeah. And you know, where I see it showing up a lot where it is inadvertent, even if intentional, but not intentional to gaslight, but intentional to change behavior to control the moment, is with parents,
Oh,
where
yeah.
parents, and I am a parent, and certainly if either of my kids were here, they would say, yeah, there were times she gaslighted me, right? But it wasn't because I wanted them to grow up not trusting their judgment. It's because I didn't want them to go driving with their friends late at night or go to
Right. Right.
a party that I thought was unsafe. And in one instance, I interviewed a young woman whose friend started to mistrust her own judgment because her mom, in an effort to get her to not go to a particular concert, said things to her like, I thought you were a different kind of girl. You know, look
Oh,
at
yeah.
the girls who go to that concert. Look at the
Right.
people who are going. They're drug addicts. They're this, they're that. And so the consequence was much graver than the mom intended. The mom just didn't want her to go. And for whatever reason, didn't say, I just don't want you to
I
go.
just don't want you to go. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that makes me think. You mentioned that there are different types of gaslighters. Tell us real quick what the different types of gaslighters are.
Yeah. So there is what I call the glamour gaslighter. the glamour gaslighter makes grand gestures. And if you are someone who feels like you're married to your soulmate, you may be married to a glamour gaslighter, because a glamour gaslighter is going to tell you all the time how much she loves you. And by the way, the pairing I saw most often in my office was the girl gaslighter, the girl gaslightee, the boy gaslighter. But
Right.
we all know in this room that men can be gaslighted too, right? And
Sure.
so whether it's the woman or you
Yeah, I
want,
was going to say that rings true to me just in my own life experience of going through the world that men are probably predominantly, probably far predominantly the gaslighters, I would expect.
yeah. Well, and also it's easier for women to go to therapy, or it was classically easier for women to
Right, right,
come in and say, I'm hurting. It's like, this is abuse. So the glamour gaslighter will not show up for 5 days. And then when you're complaining about it, tell you that there's something wrong with you for complaining, because after all, didn't he just buy you that gorgeous gift? Didn't he look at these tickets that he has for
right,
the next event that you're going to go to together? So you get caught up in that romantic bubble, in that incredible grand gesture and the incredible connection between the two of you. And then the good guy gaslighter, like my ex-husband, was very ex note that
yeah, yeah.
that he was very affable, very calm. We never really fought as such,
Hmm.
but we would have these disagreements, for example, about, and actually I'll use an example from one of my books where the couple was arguing over who should use the car on a particular night, because they both had meetings. And somehow the guy convinced his wife that her meeting couldn't have been that important. Like, after all, she wasn't really that important to
Yeah,
um, to anyone in that meeting. And so he was this good guy trying to do good things for the family. Meanwhile, she ends up feeling like, wait a minute, I thought I was really needed at this meeting. Am I really like unimportant? And so second guessing who she is and what she's about. Or another favorite thing for the good guy gaslighter to do is to give you such a hard time by questioning everything and telling you there's something wrong with the way you're thinking, and then give in to you at the end. And then
mm,
get your way, but you're exhausted and miserable because you've been fighting all weekend. Your
yeah,
good guy gaslighter says to you, what's your problem? We're doing exactly what you want.
right. This reminds me of there was a professor here at Stillwater's named Dr. Lee Manzer, and he told this amazing story all the time about how he came home one night exhausted from speaking all day. And he walked in the door, and it's like late at night, it's like 9 or 10 o'clock. And his wife says, "Did you get the Diet Coke?" Because he was supposed to get her, no, a Coke. "Did you get the Coke?" He was supposed to buy some Coke because they were out of Coke, and she loved drinking a Coke every night. And he's like, "No, I forgot about it." And so they argue about that. And then he goes and gets the Coke, and he comes home and he feels like she should just be overjoyed that he got the Coke. And she wasn't. She was just like, "Okay, thanks." And she drinks the Coke. And he was all put out because she wasn't thrilled. And he told the story to say, if you have to argue about it, you lose the reward. Like, and he talked about customer service, like if you have to fight and fight and fight to get your refund or whatever, and then they give you the refund, they feel like they've really done something great because they gave you the refund. But since you had to fight for it, you don't emotionally feel that.
And the process becomes so arduous that you walk away still exhausted and second guessing the whole interaction and yourself most of the time. And one
Yeah,
of the things that I like to tell people is, sometimes it's not a matter of right and wrong. It's a matter of how you feel.
right.
Even if in the end your gaslighter, in stage two of gaslighting, people spend a lot of time ruminating. And as I was talking about a few minutes ago, like, is he right? Am I right? And going over that conversation. I wish I had said this, but I said this, and did that trigger him? And it doesn't matter. If you have to
Right.
be sitting around ruminating constantly over a conversation that you've had with somebody. Okay, so maybe you had a misstep. Maybe there was a miscommunication. Maybe you could have said it better. But if you feel attacked, if you feel like somebody's trying to undermine you, you may not know the specifics of it, but you've got to trust your gut because it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the first type of gaslighter was what was that word?
Glamour gaslighter,
Glamour gaslighter. And then the good guy
good guy
was,
gaslighter,
and
which
then are there three? Is that
there
right?
are three, and the third is what people typically think of as your big bad bully, the intimidator gaslighter, who's going to
Gotcha.
threaten you, who's going to tell you terrible things are going to happen if you don't agree with him, if you don't see things his way, and there's something radically wrong with you, but in nasty language,
Yeah.
um, within with the fear often on the part of the gaslightee that violence is next.
Yeah.
And I always say, no matter what, safety first. If you feel like you are threatened in any way, don't talk to your gaslighter about how this may be gaslighting because they're likely to gaslight you right through the
Yeah.
whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is, I, we should have scheduled 3 episodes for this.
Yeah,
Um,
happy
okay.
to come back.
We like to do something here, like kind of take a little break, and it's called the Music Minute. I feel like you can get to know people better just by asking them what kind of music they like. So, Dr. Stern, what kind of music do you like? Do you have like maybe favorite artists, favorite songs, favorite concerts? What do you like to listen to?
So when I, so I like a lot of different music,
Yeah.
and I would say that I grew up with music. I just recently rescued my piano, my baby grand piano from childhood, which my children would say I don't play piano. I used to think I played piano
Yeah. Yeah.
until I raised them and they became really good musicians.
Right. Right.
So it's kind of true. But I used to love classical music, the romantic
Yeah.
artists like Chopin, um, Schumann. So I love that. And then as I grew up and started going to parties and like dancing and these, um, I mean, I'm just thinking now, I love Carole King and all of the
Oh, yeah.
that whole era of Joan Baez and all of that.
Right.
Judy Collins, but mostly Carole King in that way, and James Taylor. And my favorite, I have to say, to dance to with my daughter and her friends was always Motown.
Oh, I'm the biggest Motown fan.
Are
I
you
love
really?
Motown. Oh, I love Motown so
What's your
much.
favorite?
Maybe Second That Emotion.
Oh,
Such a great
love it.
song. Oh,
Absolutely.
love that song so much. There's so many. Like you start talking about Motown songs, you can't even end. But really, Second That Emotion is probably my.
If I were in a public place or somebody's living room and that were to come on the radio and or the radio, the computer, wherever it
Yeah,
would come,
yeah,
somebody's Siri or something,
yeah.
Alexa, if I were there with my daughter, both of us would get up and start dancing
Oh,
immediately.
I'd be right there with you. Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, love that. Love
Yeah,
that.
and so it's so energizing and so soulful,
Yeah,
and it is something that I did with my kids as well. So
yeah. That's fun. That's fun. Okay. You mentioned towards the beginning the Gaslight Tango. It takes two. Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so here's a demonstration of it, but you're going to have to join the role play for it to be effective. So um, well, let's go
Wheels
back
are
to
turning.
the other. Let's go back to the other example. So I I say to you, you know. Um, I'm a little nervous to ask you that because I know you like your privacy, but I've been really feeling like maybe you're losing interest in me, and we haven't been around for the last few days. And when I've tried to call you, you haven't picked up your cell phone, and I just don't get it. And you say to me, as if you're extending your hand for the tango, honey, don't you think you're being a little paranoid? And I can say to you, if I know myself and I don't think I'm being paranoid, I say, you know, maybe I'm a little paranoid, but just a little. But if I am, it's because you disappear at times.
Mm.
And I don't think that's what we're going to talk about. Like for me, what we need to talk about is either where were you or why you didn't answer your cell phone. When we're together, you answer your cell phone all the time. And then
Yeah.
you persist in that, I don't know, I've heard you've been paranoid about other things, and it's not the first time. And so if I go away from that thinking, you know, maybe he's right, then that's the first step into the tango. Because then I'm beginning to think that I no longer know my truth, right?
Right. Right.
And so then you're dancing away this tango. So then you can continue that story, and I never really know where you are, and I'm no longer even allowed to ask because
Yeah.
after all, I'm paranoid.
Yeah. We have to interact for it to go on, which we'll get to in a bit about how you stop that cycle. But tell us about, you mentioned earlier the second stage of gaslighting. What are the stages of gaslighting?
So the first stage is disbelief, where that same client walking on the street with her boyfriend who says that she's flirting, she says, "Don't be silly." She goes home, she texts her friends, "Can't believe it. I went out with this guy and he says he thought I was flirting." It's nonsense. I'm totally into him if he only knew. And so your boyfriend says something very silly to you, like, um, "What took you so long?" Like, "Oh, at this the restaurant." Yeah, I mean at the grocery store. Like, "Don't you know how to shop?" Like, you
Yeah.
told me you know how to shop. Like, what's going on with you? And you let it go because you think it's a one-off, but then it happens again. And by the end of stage one, you feel just a little confused when you used to be certain. You feel just a little less strong in your own opinion. And you find that you're just beginning to defend yourself. Stage two is all about you defending yourself. You're being assaulted by this manipulation, this psychological abuse, and you over and over again. But you still have contact with your own point of view.
Right.
And this is the stage where you're going over and over those conversations. He's telling you you're paranoid, you're defending yourself. He's telling you you are forgetful. You're giving him all the examples of how you're not. And you're looking for those examples inside of yourself so that you can present them to him. Stage three, which is depression, which happens
Mhm.
over time. And most of the time I see people, they're in stage two, or they're feeling their way to stage three. They're beginning to lose their joy. They're
Yeah.
beginning to have trouble remembering the last time that they felt good about themselves. They're noticing in stage three, you're noticing that, and some stage two as well, it's not that clear a boundary necessarily. It can be a fuzzy and over time boundary. You begin to notice that you're not telling your friends the truth about your relationship, because
Hmm.
often it's that friend who says, "Are you crazy? Facing the wall? Like, what are you doing?"
Yeah. Right. Right.
Wherever the hell you want. Get rid of that guy.
Yeah.
And in fact, in the movie, it was that third person who came in at the end. Have you seen that movie?
No, I keep wanting to watch it and then other stuff comes up, but I'm committed to watching the movie. I absolutely
David,
have
you
to
need to
watch
see
it.
the movie because there's this pivotal moment where this neighbor who suspects there's some foul play going on comes in and he says, "You know who turned off those lights," because the movie is, of course,
Yeah.
about the gaslight flickering and her
Right.
seeing it flickering and somebody denying that. You know who's playing with the lights. And inside, you know, even in stage three, when you're beginning to lose contact, or at the beginning of stage three, you still know. And then what happens during the process, if the gaslighting continues in stage three, is that you begin to take on the side of the gaslighter. Like you begin to see yourself in that way. I am that bad girlfriend. Like I don't, obviously, if I really were a good wife, I would have gotten to the market sooner. I would have gotten the Coke, despite
Yeah.
the fact that I forgot. I mean,
Yeah.
forgot, was too tired, whatever. It would have happened if I was really that person, right?
Right.
And so you've already taken on that person who's attacking you, and you're then gaslighting yourself as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
The longer you're in it, the harder it is to get out.
Right. Right.
And yet, even small steps towards claiming your reality, towards empowering yourself, towards making decisions and owning them, are so important, because you don't go from in a gaslighting relationship to out of a gaslighting relationship.
Right. Right. Are there three stages or four? I can't remember which.
Three, three
Three.
stages.
Those are three. Okay. So we've got about 5 minutes here. How do we respond to gaslighting? What are some things we can do to help ourselves and respond to those gaslighting moments in an effective way?
So I would say background, self-care, and making sure that take good care of yourself, you're sleeping well, which is hard to do in a bad relationship or in a bad relationship at work. You know,
Yeah.
we didn't even get to that.
Right. Right.
Maybe that's episode two. But also included in that is learning how to gather yourself, learning how to meditate or take a mindful moment or pause and take a deep breath, so that you're just step away so that you can remember, wait a minute, I am not a paranoid person. This only is happening in this relationship. I don't forget things all the time. I'm not a bad daughter just because I didn't want to bring the cookies or something like that. And so that's number one, to take care of yourself and give yourself the permission to feel, as Mark would say,
Hmm.
um,
Right.
but not just the permission to feel, honor those feelings. They're telling you something. You feel like something's wrong. You feel upset every time you're together. You have a stomach ache every time you're together. Honor that. There's more to discover about that relationship if you're feeling bad all the time.
Right.
And then you can begin to notice those moments where the conversation goes from I'm talking, you're responding, you're listening, then you're talking, I'm listening, I'm responding, to a power struggle. And that back and forth and back and forth. Opt out. Say to your gaslighter, you know what?
Right.
I'm going to get a cup of tea right now, or let me come back to this. If you're struggling with your boss or a colleague, let me think
Yeah.
about it and get back to this. The other thing
Yeah.
that I recommend for people is to write it down. If you write
Hmm.
it down, even if you don't remember it exactly, that dialogue, I said, he said, I said, she said, you notice that at some point you were talking about your job. At the next point, you're talking about menopause. Like, how did that happen?
Right. 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 Yeah.
Right. And if you feel like somebody's manipulating you, you need to say, I just don't agree. I hear you feel very strongly about that. I just don't agree. I don't feel that way at all. And so, one of the things that I suggest to people is to work with a friend, and that friend who knows you, loves you, who can be a reality check, just like you would look to your flight attendants,
Right. Right.
airplane, look to one of your friends, and
Yeah.
also ask for help. If you don't know the sentence stems that you need to say, like, we're going to have to agree to disagree,
Yeah.
or just not comfortable right now continuing the conversation, or I'll get back to you. Ask someone who likes you, loves you, who's there for you to help you. Write those sentence stems so that when you're in that tough moment and you can't tell truth from distortion, but you know there's something wrong, you can say
Yeah.
something that will give you the opportunity to take a step back and contact your own reality.
Yeah. Such good stuff. I always tell people that these books go into way more detail than we ever have time to discuss on the show. So be sure to pick up that book. Okay, as we close out,
Thank you, David.
this is a new segment If I can get my can't get my document to move. This is a new segment we're doing called Quick Hits. So I just ask you questions, and these are just quick answers.
Okay.
Um, may elaborate a little bit, but I know you've got a hard stop, so we'll try and do it quickly. What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
Um, I'm going to say Netflix is my guilty pleasure TV
Just
experience.
anything on Netflix. Yeah.
Netflix. I mean, things like I recently saw, I mean, they're relationship oriented things, things like The Perfect Couple. I recently saw Black Doves. Of course, I loved the Schitt's Creek. I mean, they were just like,
Schitt's Creek is one of the greatest ever.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. So that
yeah,
that I would say.
so good. Love it. If you could swap lives with anybody for a day, who would you swap? Almost said swap lives with. Who would you swap lives with?
Um, do they have to be alive?
No.
Ruth Bader
Well, I
Ginsburg.
guess if you did it for a day, then you'd be dead for a day. But go
Well,
ahead with whoever.
I would say Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ah, so great. So great. Do you have a favorite holiday?
Um, I would say all of the holidays my family celebrates are my favorite.
Like,
They
yeah,
because all of the holidays we celebrate are family time, and that's
yeah,
my favorite time.
yeah, absolutely. So good.
What's yours?
Thanksgiving. I do all the cooking. I cook my grandma's dressing recipe that everybody just is crazy about. Everybody comes to my house and we just eat and have fun, talk and laugh. Thanksgiving's my favorite.
I feel
All
that
right,
way,
if you
Shana, because I make all the old world Jewish foods like brisket and chicken and
right,
yeah. So and people come to my house.
yeah, yeah. If you could instantly become an expert in anything, what would it be?
You mean something other than
Other than what you're already an expert in. Yeah.
economics?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a
So many
really
people have said to me about themselves, if they had to study all over again, it would be economics that they'd study.
yeah. Just I think that's a great one. I would like to know. I actually recently did some studying about economics, not an expert by any way, but by any means. But my favorite joke is if you laid all the economists end to end, they still would not reach a conclusion. And that's one of my favorite jokes.
Well, I don't know anything about it, so other than living in it.
Yeah. Okay, last one. What's your favorite ice cream?
Oh, Jamocha almond fudge.
Sounds good. Love it. Dr. Stern, thank you so much for being with us today. The book is The Gaslight Effect: How to Spot and Survive the Hidden Manipulation Others Use to Control Your Life. It is not a small book, but it's eminently readable. Great illustrations, examples, all kinds of tips and helpful things. Everybody be sure and go out and buy that book. And then if they want to contact you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
My website, robinstern.com, or
Perfect.
through the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence.
Great. Dr. Stern, this has been wonderful. Thank you.
David, really a pleasure. I really enjoyed being with you, talking with you. You've asked great questions, and we had a lot of fun, I think.
I agree. All right. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
What a great person and a fun interview. We had a good time talking before and after the discussion. I really like Dr. Robin Stern. Be sure to pick up her classic book, The Gaslight Effect: How to Spot and Survive the Hidden Manipulation Others Use to Control Your Life. Go check her website out, robinstern.com, and learn more of the resources she has, articles, all kinds of things. She's just a wonderful person, and I'm really grateful that she came on the show today. We're already talking about maybe having her back, so looking forward to that. Thank you for listening to the Modern Leader podcast. Go rate it, tell everybody about how good this is, and we will see you next time on The Modern Leader.